You can also become that person who always says, the book was way better. Hey, my fellow English learner! Since you clicked on this video, chances are you're interested in learning how to start reading the classics in English. I know how hard it can be to start reading books in English, let alone those books that were written like decades or even centuries ago. I've read and enjoyed more than 60 classics in the last few years, and so could you, with a few tips. Let's dive in. Not sure whether reading the classics is worth your time. When I was at school, classics was almost a dirty word for us because we were forced to read long and boring books we couldn't understand. The dreaded Russian classics like Crime and Punishment and War and Peace. As an adult, I appreciate classic novels so much more because the writing in most of them is superb and the characters and themes are timeless. Classic English literature is very enjoyable to read, and I love this opportunity to form my own opinions about the works of such literally titans as Jane Austen and George Orwell. Most of the classics, except for modern classics, are in the public domain now, which means you can read them for free. Reading classics will expand your vocabulary, teach you about the society and culture in different historical periods, well, mostly the Western culture because we're talking about books written in English, and make your days or evenings a little bit brighter. So how do you start reading the classics in English? Tip number 1. Pick up a classic novel when you're ready. You need the experience of reading a few books in English under your belt before grabbing a classic novel. Don't start with the classics. If it's a graded reader with simplified vocabulary and grammar, then sure, go for it. But don't start your reading journey with a novel from the 19th century. Getting used to the unusual grammar structures and old vocabulary will probably make you feel frustrated pretty soon. Our experiences may differ, but my first classic novel was my 21st book I read in English. Tip number 2. Start with the modern classics. Books from the 20th century are generally easier to read than books from the 19th century, let alone earlier times. The language is much closer to the way people write books now. There's so many wonderful dystopian novels written in the 20th century. You can start with them. My first classic novel was Animal Farm by George Orwell. I loved it. Tip number 3. Be prepared to struggle with vocabulary. The classics are challenging, especially when it comes to vocabulary. So be prepared to struggle a lot and invest a lot of time and effort into improving your passive vocabulary and getting used to some very unusual words. Learn to guess the meaning of new words from the context and look them up in the dictionary if necessary. Tip number 4. Be patient and cut yourself some slack. Don't expect to read classic novels fast, especially at the beginning. Vocabulary is different, grammar can be different. Slow progress is still progress. It took me 6 months to read Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, translated into English, and I read around 1 chapter a day for half a year, every single day. Consistency is key. Tip number 5. Get a Kindle or Kindle app. Purchasing a Kindle was one of the best decisions for my reading journey in English. What I love about this device, besides the fact that I don't need to strain my eyes like when I'm reading from the screen, is that I can look up words in the Oxford Dictionary embedded there without disrupting my reading process. Classic novels are just much easier to read in this way, in my experience. Tip number 6. Join a book club. Reading a challenging book in the company of other readers can be so much fun. Also, it will give you enough motivation to continue reading. As a bonus, discussing books with other people will help your fluency. I always recommend caravan clubs. I had a fantastic experience with the classics book clubs there. Tip number 7. Try annotated editions. Some publishers include annotations and some notes on the historical period and maybe an author's biography. I find that all of this really helps with with understanding classic novels better. Annotations can be really useful, and they often explain interesting words and wordplay. Tip number 8. Learn more about the historical period. Earlier, I was saying that reading classic novels can teach you about certain periods in history. Well, it also works the other way around. The more you learn about a certain historical period, the easier it will be for you to read and understand books set in this time period. If you want to read novels set in, let's say, Victorian England, you'll benefit from watching a documentary or a few YouTube videos on this topic or reading something. Just a little bit of information about this political situation, social classes, things that were appropriate socially in this time period, etc., will make a huge difference to your reading process and the enjoyment you get from the book. And speaking of enjoyment, tip number 9. Reading classics should bring joy. Enjoyment, not torture. We're not at school. You don't have to read the classics or anything for that matter. If you're not vibing with the book you're reading, just pick up something else or watch a movie. You don't have to read books just because they're popular and everyone is reading them. And you don't have to read books that are from some lists of 100 books you should read before you die. So choose genres and authors you think you'll actually enjoy. Tip number 10. Watch the adaptation first. If spoilers don't bother you, watching the adaptation first can make a huge difference to your reading process. You'll get what you're reading easier and faster because you'll know the characters and the general plot. So the reading process will be less painful. I watched the 1995 BBC version of Pride and Prejudice before I read the book and fell in love with both versions. You can also become that person who always says the book was way better. Reading classics in English is challenging but doable, and it's so much fun. Let me know in the comments down below, what was your experience with reading classic novels at school? Did you hate it? I'll share a few of my favorite easy classics in English next time. If you want to know why reading in English is fantastic and how it changed my life, check out this video next. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with more awesome language content.